morning. I think this is chapter 6. Their adventure in the land of the clever people continued. When morning came, the brownies woke up very hungry. They passed a few knobs and got a simply lovely breakfast of porridge, honey and cocoa. Now we'd better think of some riddles, said Hop. All be quiet and think hard. So they thought hard. Hop thought of one first. What pillar is never used in building? He asked. Don't know, said the others. Why, a caterpillar, of course, said Hop with a chuckle. Very good indeed, said Skip. Listen, I've got one now. What walks on its head all day? Tell us, said the others. The nail in your shoes, chuckled Skip. Now jump. What lion is loose in the fields? Asked Jump. I know, cried Hop. The dandelion. Right, said Jump. Listen, what's that? It was a bell ringing. It must be to call us to the marketplace, said Hop. Come on. They all raced outside and saw a great stream of solemn, fat little people going down the street. The brownies joined them and soon came to a wide marketplace. The people ranged themselves in straight rows. A clock struck 9. Trumpets blew, and down the steps of the town hall came the very wise man. He had bigger spectacles than anyone else and a very, very big head. Then began the examination. First, the very wise man asked his riddle, and then a clever person answered it and asked his. On went the very wise man to the next person. Everybody answers all right, whispered Hop. No one gets spanked. Just then the very wise man came to the little girl who had spoken to the brownies the night before. She couldn't answer her riddle, and she was sent off to be spanked by the spanker who lived in a little house nearby. Then came the brownies' turn. What pillar is never used in building? Asked Hop, rather shaky at the knees. Pooh, a caterpillar, said the very wise man. What walks on its head all day? Asked Skip nervously. Pooh, nail in your shoe, said the very wise man. Hold on. What lion is loose in the fields? Asked Jump, almost forgetting his riddle when he felt the very wise man's eyes on him. Pooh, a dandelion, said the very wise man. Very feeble. Now answer me this. Why is a toasting fork? Why is a toasting fork? Said Hop, puzzled. It doesn't make sense, does it? Off to the spankers, roared the very wise man. Poor Hop went off to join the little girl. Now you, said the very wise man to Skip. Why is a garden rake? But that doesn't make sense either, said Skip. It isn't a proper riddle. Off to the spankers, roared the very wise man again, and he turned to Jump. Why is a porcupine? He asked. I don't know, said Jump. Off to the spankers, shouted the very wise man, and went on asking the clever people more riddles which they seemed to answer perfectly. The brownies were well spanked by the spanker, who was a solemn little man with soft eyes and a hard hand. They were very angry about it. It's all nonsense, said Hops crossly. He didn't ask fair riddles. I'll jolly well ask him to do something he can't do, and then we'll get away from here. Well, if you can do that, said the little girl, drying her tears, don't forget to take me with you. All that day the brownies wandered about the land of clever people with the little girl. It was a very solemn, proper land, and nobody laughed or skipped or ran. Poor Skip and Jump were sent to the spanker twice for not making a rhyme when they spoke. They felt sorrier than ever they had since they left Fairyland. Little tubby policemen seemed to be everywhere, and they soon began to feel that it was dangerous even to whisper. Next morning they couldn't think of any riddles, nor answer any, so off they went to be spanked again. Hop was getting very tired of it. I'll go and ask the very wise man to do something he can't do, he said. Where do I go? He asked the little girl. Go to the town hall at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she said. You'll find him there waiting. So off the brownies went. They marched up the steps and found the very wise man sitting in a great red chair studying an old book. Good afternoon, O very wise man. Do what I ask of you, if you can, began Hop. Build a castle in half an hour with an entrance gate and one big tower. The very wise man descended from his throne and walked out of the hall. He drew a wide circle in the marketplace, muttered a few words, and waved his arms. Immediately there sounded the noise of hammering and clattering, although nothing could be seen. But lo and behold, at the end of half an hour, there stood in front of the astonished brownies a wonderful castle with an entrance gate and one big gleaming tower. Hop, Skip and Jump were too amazed to say a word. Then, with a wave of his hand, the very wise man caused the castle to vanish completely. After that, he turned to Hop. "Off to the spankers," he said. So off Hop had to go. "I'll think of something much, much more difficult next time," he decided. For days, Hop and the others tried to think of new riddles and to puzzle out something difficult to ask the very wise man to do. It didn't seem any good at all. They always seemed to be either going to or coming back from the spankers. At 3 o'clock each day, the brownies always went to the town hall with something new and difficult to ask the very wise man to perform, hoping that he wouldn't be able to do it. Once they asked him if he could make a ladder that reached to the stars, and he made a lovely one out of a rainbow. Hop wanted to climb it, but the very wise man wouldn't let him. "You might escape, and that would be a most annoying thing for me," he said. Another afternoon, the brownies asked him to make a cloak, which, when he put it on, would make him invisible. He did it at once, popped the cloak on, and none of the brownies could see where he was. He had disappeared. "Let us put it on as well and try the lovely magic spell," begged Hop, who thought that if only he could throw the cloak around himself and the other two, he might be able to escape unseen. But the very wise man wouldn't let him. He sent them all off to the spankers instead. One evening, the brownies were feeling very miserable indeed. "I believe we shall have to stay forever," groaned Hop. "So shall I," sighed the little girl, rumpling her curly head in despair. "Don't rumple your hair like that," said Skip, "or you'll be sent for spanking again." He smoothed down her hair for her and then picked up a curly bit that had broken off. "Isn't it curly?" he said. "I wonder if I can make it straight." He pulled it out straight, but it went back curly. He wetted it, but it was still curly. Then he gave it to the others, and they tried to make it straight, but they couldn't. "The very wise man could make it straight in half a minute," said Hop mournfully. "Well, I should like to see him do it," said Skip. "It simply won't go straight." "Let's ask him tomorrow," said Jump hopefully. So the next day, the 3 brownies and the little girl went to the town hall at 3 o'clock. The very wise man was there as usual. "Your next request I now await," he said, leaving Hop to finish the rhyme, but Hop was ready for once. "Then make this curly hair quite straight," said Hop, handing it to him. The very wise man took it and looked scornful to think he'd had such an easy task. He pulled it out straight and then let it go one end, and the hair sprang back into the curl again. He wetted it and he pulled it straight once more, and it sprang back curly than ever. He stamped on it, he clapped it between his hands, he waved it in the air, he put it between the pages of a book. Not a bit of good did it do. It only made the hair twice as curly as before. Then the very wise man called for a hot iron and a cold iron. He ironed it first with one and then the other, but the hair sprang back to its curliness and wouldn't stay straight. The brownies watched in the greatest excitement, their hearts beating quickly. "I don't believe he can do it," cried Jump. The very wise man was so worried that he didn't notice Jump hadn't spoken in rhyme. He couldn't think what to do with that wretched hair. At last he knew that he was beaten. He sank back onto his throne, mopped his forehead, and asked Hop to let him off. "Yes, I will," said Hop, "if you will do what I want you to do. If not, I'll tell all the clever people how stupid you are." "Talk in rhyme all the time," said the very wise man. "Nonsense," said Hop. "I'm not going to talk in rhyme any more. It's silly when you can talk better other ways. Now, are you going to do what I want?" "Yes," said the very wise man sadly. "First of all," said Hop, "tell me where the Princess Peronelle is." "In which land with which green eyes?" answered the very wise man. "How can we get there?" asked Hop. Take the Green Railway to Fiddlestick Field, said the very wise man, and ask the saucepan man to tell you the way. He knows it. Now the next thing is, said Hop, feeling he was doing very well, you must let this little girl go back to the land of giggles. Oh no, I can't do that, said the very wise man crossly. All right, said Hop, I'm going to tell the people all about how you couldn't make a curly hair straight. Oh, you are brave, Hop, cried the little girl, kissing him. Thank you for sticking up for me. Hop caught hold of the very wise man's shoulder and daringly shook him. Will you let her go? He demanded. Yes, yes, leave me alone, growled the very wise man. And the next thing is, take us out of this horrid land of yours, said Hop. You are not clever people a bit. You only think you are. You think it's clever to be solemn and proper and never laugh or skip. Well, it isn't. It's just silly. Come along, said the very wise man suddenly. I'll take you to the land, out of the land now. I shall be glad to be rid of you. And he strode down the hall, out into the marketplace, and through the streets of the town. The brownies and the little girl followed him in delight. At last they came to a high wall, and in it was a gateway and a turnstile. A big-headed, fat little man sat there, and he stared at them in surprise. Am I to let these people out? He asked doubtfully. Yes, you are, cried Hop, laughing to see the little man's horror when he heard him speak without rhyming. Then Hop turned to the very wise man. There's just one more thing you've to do, he said. I will do it, said the very wise man. Well, listen, said Hop. Answer me some of these silly riddles you asked us each morning. Now, why is a toasting fork? Why is a garden rake? Why is a porcupine? The very wise man hung his head. I don't know, he said. Well, if you aren't mean and horrid, cried Hop, it's unfair to ask people riddles you don't have the answers to and then send them to be spanked because you don't answer them. Now, I'll give you just one more chance. Why is a garden rake? The very wise man shook his head. All right, said Hop, grinning. Off to the spankers with you. Tell him to give you his best spanking. The very wise man gave an awful yell and ran away before Hop could say anything more. Hop and the others clicked through the turnstile and chuckled. That just serves him right, said Skip. He won't be so keen on spanking now. And the next chapter is their adventure on the Green Railway.